fans in the corner of, say, someone like CM Punk or Stone Cold Steve Austin to put this match off, just as we had for The Rock and John Cena. So many fans were in the corner of John Cena, although you didn't hear them over the chants for The Rock at WrestleMania 28 through 29, and there were so many fans in the corner of The Rock as there were John Cena. Obviously, John Cena was booed more than The Rock was, and The Rock got more cheers for him than what John Cena ever did in that program. And obviously, in the Rock-Goldberg feud from 2003, Goldberg, of course, had a significant number of fans over The Rock who was booed significantly during that feud. And we've seen so many like that play out the same way over the years. But I think this match is something that really would be a definition of a dream match. It's something that wrestling fans have wanted for years, and it's been something that I've wanted and I've been preaching about on this YouTube channel for forever. Now, I can't tell you the significant amount of time that I have been spending on this because I don't know the exact amount of time I've spent on preaching about Kane versus Undertaker for WrestleMania 32, but I think with the venue and I think with the circumstances the Undertaker's facing now, with over 51 years of life put in and over 25 years of a wrestling career put in, turning 51 through 52 this March in 2016, that's a significant age to have reached as a wrestler and still be wrestling and the way that you are is just amazing. And I think the Undertaker needs to be honored and needs to really consider, reevaluating himself, taking a step back. And if he is going to have that final match, if it's not going to be against Sting because of Sting's neck injury from Night of Champions last September, which we don't know when Sting's coming back from, if it's not going to be Sting versus The Undertaker, at least give us one better and give us something as just as significant as it if you're going to give us anything, and give us The Undertaker versus Kane for WrestleMania 32. This is something I've been preaching about for forever, and with Kane's direction in WWE being very uncertain, especially in the follow-up to this match, if it happens, I think Kane needs something significant to thrive off of, and he could be thriving. Here's the thing about it, and how I feel about Kane and his direction. I think Kane could be thriving off his victory with The Undertaker and the Brothers' Destruction over the Wyatts at Survivor Series, which was obvious. I was just leaning in the direction of something more unpredictable to happen in the fall of the Survivor Series than what people were obviously implying was going to happen, because a lot of people were made believers that The Undertaker and Kane were just going to walk into Survivor Series and win the way they did to celebrate 25 years of The Undertaker's career, which they obviously did. And I'm leaning in the direction of something far more unpredictable with what if Kane turned on The Undertaker and we saw Kane versus The Undertaker for WrestleMania 32 based off the attention The Undertaker received for his 25th anniversary, as opposed to Kane getting just as much attention as part of the Brothers of Destruction, which teamed together for the first time since 2007, 2008, with the exception of that six-man tag team match from 2013 when The Undertaker teamed with Team Hell No, Kane and Daniel Bryan to face the original Shield, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, which they lost. The last time we saw them team together, they actually lost, and of course, in The Undertaker had a match with Dean Ambrose. We never saw him after until WrestleMania a few months after, and I think it's just amazing how The Undertaker and Kane have just, always come back together. We've seen reunions of them teased time and time again for Raw 1000, and they've come back together all the time. But I thought it was too obvious they were going to win, so I was kind of trying to stir the pot and trying to create some rumors, I guess, for us all to think about. What if Kane turned on The Undertaker because he was jealous of The Undertaker's attention he received for his 25th anniversary, with fans rising for him as he did for us over 25 years ago, and then we see Kane versus The Undertaker derive from everything that would have happened in the fallout of Survivor Series. Obviously, the swerve, of course, that was predicted was that Sheamus would come out and cash in the briefcase. I initially thought that was the swerve that was followed through with. This year at WrestleMania, whatever the final match was of the 16-man single elimination tournament, Sheamus was going to come out and cash in the briefcase. Things did not fall out from Survivor Series the way I had predicted. I just thought Sheamus was going to cash in, and that would have been it, and Sheamus would have had a meaningful reign as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I didn't foresee the alliance between himself, Rusev, and King Barrett happening as the new authority, or the International Alliance, which I've chosen to appropriately refer to them as, because they are exemplifying a lot of internationality, and it's beyond me why Paige isn't involved with that. Obviously, they're keeping her within the Divas Revolution and what's happening there, but obviously that was the swerve from Survivor Series that was followed through with, and now wrestling fans are trying to decipher how Kane's going to continue to thrive off the victory of The Undertaker himself against the Wyatt family, and what direction Kane's going to be headed in. A couple of months ago, I speculated on Kane's future. Again, I was talking about The Undertaker versus Kane, so it may feel like I'm reiterating what I initially thought was in store for the future of Kane, but the thing is, as a diehard fan of both Kane and The Undertaker, how can you not want to see the Deadman Undertaker versus Demon Kane scenario be playing out for WrestleMania 32, given the venue and the circumstances someone like The Undertaker's faced with at 51 51 years of age and over 25 years punched as a wrestler. I know we don't see him all the time on the active roster, but it is said that The Undertaker's trying to make a full-time return up until the time comes for him to retire, which could be WrestleMania 32. And obviously, with a significant number of things happening for The Undertaker in 2015, you're obviously being led to believe The Undertaker could be retiring by WrestleMania next year, which we are just a few short months away from. And if that is the case, what more needs to be said than thank you, Taker, for everything that he has done. But I think The Undertaker versus Kane is a very appropriate way to end all for The Undertaker. Of course, we've seen it all from The Undertaker, so why don't we end it all by having The Undertaker versus Kane one more time at a WrestleMania where they've had some of their greatest matches, starting at WrestleMania 14 back in 98, WrestleMania 20 in 2004, and now we could be seeing at WrestleMania 32 in 2015, 9 years after their last WrestleMania encounter. The Undertaker has won every WrestleMania encounter he's had with Kane over the years, obviously, to coincide with his streak, a streak that's seen him defeat over 10 world champions in so many great, phenomenal matches up until the point that his streak was ended courtesy of Brock Lesnar. Was not a really big fan of how Brock Lesnar was chosen as the man to end the Undertaker's streak. Obviously, it had something to do with their history from back in the early thousands. Of course, when the Undertaker was trying to promote Brock Lesnar as one of SmackDown and WWE's biggest rising stars, obviously he made Brock Lesnar famous, but not in the way that he intended to do from their Hell in a Cell encounter in 2002, the original one from the No Mercy pay-per-view of that year. Of course, we saw their first Hell in a Cell encounter since 2002 earlier this year at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view to finalize the rivalry, allowing that they're never going to wrestle each other again. And obviously that's leading us in the direction to believe the Undertaker is coming up on his final match, which could be against either Kane or Sting, but obviously right now, given Sting's injury and the circumstances of it and how much rehabilitation Sting has to go through, Kane versus the Undertaker is the obvious answer, and the next best thing to Sting versus the Undertaker, which is something wrestling fans has wanted forever. And I don't blame you for being upset that we could not see the Undertaker versus Sting. We're not going to be seeing that at WrestleMania 32. I don't blame you if you feel that way, because we wanted to see that match forever. But I mean, if you want to have a dream match involving the Undertaker for his final match, I mean, the next best thing to Sting versus the Undertaker is obviously Kane versus the Undertaker, given their history, because who else does the Undertaker have, who's still on the active roster, enough history with to create a feud with that will be remembered for one of the Undertaker's greatest matches and the Undertaker's final match? If there ever was an opponent for the Undertaker to have, it would be Kane. In my honest opinion, that's the honest I can be with you. If there ever was somebody for the Undertaker to face in his final match, if it had to be his final match rather than Sting, obviously the first choice for me would be Sting, because I've always been a huge fan of both the Undertaker and Sting for what they did for both WWE and WCW back in the day, of course, for the respective brands for Raw and Nitro, of course, during that Monday Night War rating war, which was going on for a number of years. 86 weeks is how long that war lasted, and of course it had a lot to do with what the Undertaker and Sting were doing for the respective brands. So I obviously would be a big fan of seeing the Undertaker versus Sting, but if I had to go a second match and go to the next best thing, it obviously would be the Undertaker and Kane, because one thing that you want to see in a feud like the Undertaker versus Kane, especially if it's playing a significant role on the Undertaker's retirement, is you want to see a lot of great wrestling psychology. And who else out there can you put in the ring against the Undertaker where we would see a significant amount of great wrestling psychology? There's really nobody you can put in the ring that can match the psychology factor of the Undertaker as good as what Kane could. I mean, there's nobody on the new talent roster right now who exemplifies the definition of great wrestling psychology. I mean, if you had a number of legends, probably they would. You know, if you put the Undertaker in the ring against Jake the Snake Roberts, you could have 500 matches between Jake the Snake Roberts and the Undertaker, even the Undertaker and Roddy Piper, and you would see great wrestling psychology. The Undertaker and Bret Hart, the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. But I mean, really, other than Sting, who else is there now during this time and era of professional wrestling we've come into that can actually match wrestling psychology with the Undertaker? There's nobody out there you can put in the ring against the Undertaker when you're talking about wrestling psychology. I mean, it's not like Jake the Snake Roberts is going to make a full-time return to WWE under Legends contract to give us the Undertaker versus Jake the Snake one more time at WrestleMania for the first time since WrestleMania 7 or 8. I mean, it's not going to happen. So what you have to do is you have to put somebody in the ring who is still on the active roster, who is just as old, has just as much experience as what the Undertaker's had for years. And obviously the answer to that, because of Sting's injury, is Kane. And obviously, yes, we want to see the Undertaker versus Sting, but we're going to have to wait a little while longer. If the Undertaker hasn't retired by the time Sting makes a full-time return, then we could see it then. And that could be when the Undertaker's final match happens. So we're just kind of jumping to conclusions somehow, some way, by saying the Undertaker was going to have his final match this year at WrestleMania against Kane. The thing is, Why people believe The Undertaker was retiring as soon as WrestleMania 32 is the fact that The Undertaker's finalized a lot of things. A lot of stuff is finished up. A lot of his past rivalries from what happened to him last year at WrestleMania. Of course, WrestleMania 30 when The Undertaker's streak was broken. He finished things up with Bray Wyatt. He finished things up with Brock Lesnar. So the only thing left for The Undertaker to do is give us one final hurrah and his final match against Kane, and that would be it. We're kind of jumping the gun. Who's to say that Sting won't return after WrestleMania and The Undertaker wins one more time at WrestleMania, upping his record to 23-1 at WrestleMania, which would be awesome, by the way. Pointless, but awesome, just to see The Undertaker continue to win matches after that one loss out of Brock Lesnar. But I mean, really, Sting versus The Undertaker is a must-to-have for wrestling fans. It's the one dream match that we haven't seen for forever. We've wanted to see it for forever, and I think it would be a great way of ending off an absolutely phenomenal and spectacular career for The Undertaker for the last 20 years. Am I right or am I wrong in having said anything that I've said about both Kane and The Undertaker when you talk about their futures? And the only thing that you can do at this point in time is speculate on them. At this point in time, I thought Kane would have thrived. Bottom line, I would have thought he would have been champion, or he would have been feuding with The Undertaker months before WrestleMania 32, because you need a significant amount of time to hype something up as big as The Undertaker versus Kane, more especially if it's significant because of how it's The Undertaker's final match. If it's not going to be The Undertaker versus Sting, but I guess wrestling fans, really didn't get what they wanted, especially Kane fans, who I can't tell you how much sympathy I have for you guys, because I know you feel the same